I'm going to call this meeting of the Norwich Tennis Committee to order. First, I want to introduce everybody to Frank Fertoni. Yep, he's connecting. Probably. Come on, Frank, you can do it. There he is.
There he is.
So I'm going to introduce everybody to Frank Fertoni. Frank's a long-term tennis member in Norwich. Very good
Hi,
tennis
Frank.
player. Almost as good as me. So Frank will have a lot to offer, I'm sure. All right, so our first order of business here is a citizen's comment. I don't know if anybody wants to, does anybody know anything of any citizens who have commented or sent them any letters, communication of that nature?
Okay, nobody is on now.
Nope, apparently not. So our old business is to approve the minutes. I hope you guys had a chance to look at them. Frank, unfortunately, you cannot, I think I told you this already, you can't vote on the approval since you weren't here for the last meeting. Would anybody like to, first of all, did everybody get a chance to read them, look them over?
Yeah.
Okay, somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
It's an aye, all opposed? No, all right, the minutes are approved. All right, so to our next, this is going to be probably a relatively short meeting. To our next level of business here, we're talking about the fundraising efforts. Now, last meeting in the minutes, we had talked about kind of an informal suspension. This is, since this is of our efforts, since this is a line item, I think we need to make a motion to discuss it formally.
I make a motion to formally discuss the suspension of fundraising efforts for the Norwich tennis courts.
I'll second that.
Okay, so let's discuss this. Don't know where to go with this, except that I've had a number of people ask me what's the status of the fundraising, where are the courts going. I cannot answer any of that, and I think it's important that people know that we are at a standstill, and I think it needs to be formally put in our minutes. Anybody else have any ideas about that?
I'm kind of embarrassed, having done the fundraising and made the calls, and supposedly we had the money in hand. We had a contract ready to go, and for some unknown reason, or a reason that no one is willing to explain to us with any clarity, we're unable to go ahead. So I can't see the point in us continuing, and I wish I had an answer for those people that say, you know, we have up on Mohegan Park, we have a beautiful set of exercise machines that were okayed at the same time as the tennis courts, and they're built, and we have a big pile of debris and grass on the tennis courts.
I actually may have an update for you guys. That's one of the reasons why I came to the meeting today for you guys. So this afternoon, I had a conversation with the city manager as well as several others. I don't know if you remember, if you know, but last council meeting, we officially approved the additional money. I think it's the $195,000 for the lights and things were approved by the city council for the project. As far as the conversation over moving forward, I would tell you to reach out to the city manager tomorrow. It's of our notion, the reason we passed after our workshop, the last bit of that funding for the project is we're all on board to move forward with the 4 courts. So we've had the conversations we've needed to had. And at this point, the project can move forward. So I would say, if I don't know if the chair or whoever wants to reach out to the city manager about moving forward with everything, but they're anticipating that. That's one of the reasons. That was the last piece that we needed to do as a council, which was the approval of the $195,000 through ARPA. So the project can move forward. I would just reach out. I would tell you to reach out to the city manager tomorrow as to what needs to get done to get the project started.
I would actually, if you wouldn't mind, add to, because I just talked to the city manager 15 minutes before this to confirm all that. So it's a go with the 4 courts. So I don't think the next step would need to be to reach out to him, but rather we need to circle back to, is the quote that we had still
No,
an accurate quote?
Not a
no,
chance. Not a chance.
nope.
So that would be the next step, is we need the updated quote, because it's my understanding from talking to Bob Castronova and purchasing, the company was on the list. That part is okay. So now it's just a matter of the updated quote. And I guess we're gonna have to relook at the difference in available funds versus what the cost is now, which I understand is frustrating.
Very frustrating. And with all due respect, Daryl, we were promised the funds before and we went ahead and got it all ready to go. And then all of a sudden it wasn't given to us. So what's to make us want to continue and get another quote and have it all ready to go? And then the city council say, no, you can't have the money again.
So I think the difference was, and the money as it was before was proposed. So it was not, the city council never voted on this last slate of money until last.
Not the last slate. The last slate is just for the lights. I'm talking about just for the courts.
That
Because
money, that money has already been set aside, so it's never been touched. So the money that was approved 2 years ago from the capital budget of the regular city budget has been sitting aside. Money from the first round of the ARPA that was allocated to the tennis has been sitting aside. It's not been touched.
then
So
why couldn't we use it when we had the
So the issue,
contract?
so the issue was with the contract, and this is why there was a stall amongst the council, was there was a conversation at that point of not knowing the direction of the project. So one of the things we talked about, just being upfront with you, there was the conversation of the playground removal when they were talking originally 6 courts. The other part that we talked about in the original part, and this is when they came back to us for the additional money for lights, parking, and I think maybe some of the fencing, was that part of the project. Then there was a conversation to make sure that everybody is on board for 4 courts and not 6 courts. And so there were conversations that have to happen outside of the council meetings. And that takes time sometimes to fit into everybody's schedule. So there were pauses in it, because the big issue is we don't want to say we're allocating the last bit of money for something and we not have a clear direction of where all of the projects are going. The tennis courts weren't the only project that this happened to. We did it to Uncas Leap and several other projects as well. Just making sure everybody was on the same page. So there were a lot of questions that we had as individuals on the council to make sure, we say yes and it moves forward. But the other big part to it, I will say, is this is a little different than us having allocated it through the budget. So if it was through the budget, the process could have continued going and there would have been no issues. With it going through ARPA and there being so many strict regulations that have to be followed as far as reporting each dollar that's spent, we wanted to make sure that all of our decisions of us saying yes aligned with what was going on. So that's the reason why we've been slow about quite a few projects, is because we want to make sure that every dollar that's spent fits within what their guidelines are, what their reporting is, and so on and so forth. So I think that was part of the hangup with a lot of this, is making sure that all the projects make sense and fit into every single category and line item for what the money is being used for.
May I ask a question, Darrell?
Yes,
Matter of fact, 2 questions.
go for it.
Number one, my understanding was that the first phase, all the money was approved for the tennis courts. So I'm kind of confused. If that money had been all approved, where did it fall into what category that it had to be a line item and approved as far as ARPA regulations? That's the first question. The second question I have is, why didn't anybody ever ask anybody involved with the tennis committee where the plan was and what the project, how the project had progressed. I never got a call from anybody.
So I will say that the first part of the allocation for the tennis actually was split. So the first allocation, I think of maybe $150,000 to $200,000 came out of the actual city budget.
That was 100,000.
That came out of the city budget.
Yep.
That
Years
fall-
ago.
That fall, when we did the first ARPA round, some of the line items from that fall around I want to say September, that allocation that we approved, I think it was September 7th. That was the other allocation within that line item breakdown. Some of that money went towards the tennis project.
That was 350, I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
One of the things I will tell you what happened when we originally, and this was before Tara came on, was we had a rec advisory meeting where there was the conversation that the amount that was allocated was not enough for the overall project for what at that point. So that was one where we were just kind of having that conversation. The other problem, and it could, again, this is us fixing some of the flaws and mistakes that happen. With it being, you guys being a subcommittee of the rec advisory, a lot of the conversation was happening amongst the rec advisory and the city council and the rec office. And it's just that's on us about not coming directly to the tennis committee or individuals really understanding that you guys were doing more than fundraising. You guys were really steering the project. So that was one of the other things that we kind of forgot in this whole entire thing as we were having the conversations when we have our facility updates and things on projects during our rec advisory meeting, since you guys are a subcommittee of the rec advisory. So I think that was the other big piece to this. And again, this is why we're where we're at now, but these are the reasons why we're kind of changing and solidifying how we do things from a council perspective. So that's on us, but we were really taking the updates like we normally get during our rec advisory meetings.
I have to admit, I appreciate you saying that. It's on you, but if somebody doesn't know what's going on and there's somebody else that does, it seems to me that somebody could have given us a call. 4 members on the committee at the time. That's where our frustration is.
And our minutes are published.
Absolutely. And that's where we are fine tuning how we do things on the rec advisory and across other committees as well, because we don't need this to happen again.
Is the city council willing to give us the money to make up for what's going to cost above what we had a couple of months ago as a quote?
Well, I would say first have the conversation.
Yeah.
Bob Castronova, the city manager, and see where things land. And then, of course, they'll come to us once they've had the conversations and the quotes and everything have come in. They always come to us, and if we have to have the conversation at that point, I mean, it's partly on us as well. So
I guess it's very frustrating when we had it ready to go, had the money, had everything, and now because of this huge delay, it's going to cost more money and again, might not happen after 2.5 years.
I wouldn't say that it's not going to happen because I think it's a priority for us to get the project done. I think now that we have a set direction as to where things are going, I think we know that it's on us to get the project done. It's no different than the delay we put on Uncle Sleep and some of the others. So I think the onus is on us to make sure the project gets done.
Okay. So it's my understanding that the recreation maintenance and projects has now been diverted to the Department of Public Works. Is that correct?
I would say yes.
Yes.
So I'm assuming this project is going to have to go through DPW.
It was happening in conjunction with them anyway.
I know because we had the engineers involved.
Yeah.
But other than me talking to Pat McLaughlin the other day, he didn't really know anything about the tennis committee. So I'm trying to figure out, is he the next person that we need to talk to? Or that
I would say first, I would suggest, as Tara has already said, have the conversation first with Bob Castronova and the city manager as far as the quote, because it really doesn't, I mean, then of course they'll bring Pat in on it. But first, I mean, the first conversation has to be talking to the company on the quote and where things stand.
Yeah,
He's-
and
Yeah, he's good. Go ahead.
I had a meeting with Pat this morning about all the various projects and where we kind of left tennis was, okay, if this is all going through, we are gonna need an updated quote. So we're just gonna continue to partner on projects that were already underway before the change. So I think we need that updated quote to figure out how to move forward.
That's certainly true. I'm admittedly a little confused about how to actually get that, but, because the city manager is not going to have the quote.
No,
Well-
but so did Bob, did Bob coordinate that before?
We
No.
did it.
Tara and I'm sorry, Cheryl and I did it.
Okay, yeah,
Okay,
I
good.
thought you guys had done it, so I think it would just be a matter of reaching out with whoever was connected, you were connected to previously. I can go through Cheryl's emails to try and find that, but I wasn't included in that, so I don't have, but I can find it. I can find the information and we just need to circle back to who we were working with for an updated quote.
Absolutely. I'm assuming, quite frankly, I think that the costs are probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 25% increase for those courts. I'm just guessing. That's more or less what they intimated to us at our last meeting. Okay, so we're kind of back to where we started. Are we still going to continue with our fundraising, or are we going to put it in suspension for the time being until we have a quote?
I make a motion to suspend until we have a quote.
I second that. There's
Oh.
nothing we can really do.
I would agree. All in favor? Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? Are you voting, Frank?
I guess I can.
You can in this, yes.
Okay, yes, I agree with you guys.
Okay. That passed unanimously. The next item on the agenda is our budget update. I'm quite certain that that budget hasn't changed any. I think we're 19,000, I believe it's 397, I think. I'm sure that money hasn't changed any. So I guess our action item then would be I will go ahead and try to make some contact with either the contractor and or city project manager, and we'll try to move on from there. And if Tara, you could get me that email information, that would be helpful.
Okay, I will look for that tomorrow.
Great. Okay, I think we're done. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a
Thank-
motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Our next meeting is, again, the second Monday in August. I don't have the date at my fingertips.
I can look it up.
I believe it's the 8th.
Eighth?
It is the 8th.
Okay,
Yes.
Great, all right. Thank you for helping us, Darrell. Appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care,
Bye-bye.
you guys.